Hi everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and this is another episode of Retro Gaming. So today I wanted to talk about and show you guys Ogre. Ogre was and is a war game of future combat involving giant cyber tanks that want to basically annihilate mankind. If you think about Terminator and Skynet, this is if Skynet had a giant cybernetic tank, and that's what they used instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this game has quite the history, and it has quite the history for me. The original Pocket Edition, and this is a kind of a reprint of the Pocket Edition, came out in the 70s, and they were an inexpensive way of playing a war game. It has a folded up map inside, and it has a counter sheet. I'm not going to open up this copy. I just kind of want to keep it in its packaging, this reprint. But it was pretty cool. It was a way to play war games on the cheap. And there were a lot of these type of pocket games during that time that came out. Ogre was one that captured my imagination when I was much younger. I was probably 7 or 8 when I first saw it and introduced it to my friends, and it was a cool way to kind of get into wargaming. Now this doesn't have miniatures, obviously, this first version of it, but pretty quickly miniatures came out for the game so that you could play on bigger hexes. Eventually there was a Ogre miniatures game, which I think I won several awards for best miniature game for whatever year it came out. And Steve Jackson Games, this game was designed by Steve Jackson. Steve Jackson Games is still around, and they've done some Kickstarters for Ogre miniatures. A giant, I have it in my garage, it's a giant box of cardboard Ogre that is basically a mega version of this that has, this would be a playing piece for the giant version. And it has cardboard ogres that you put together that are kind of three-dimensional. They're kind of a cardboard model of the ogre. But they also have models. And several years ago, I did some unboxings for the Ogre Kickstarters that I got, because I had to back Ogre Kickstarter because I like Ogre. And I'm going to say I love the original artwork. I think that's half of what sold the game. And that's why they put the illustration Winchell Chung on there, because he did such an awesome job. Now it came out in 1977. So yeah, pretty cool. But anyway, so I had to have the miniatures. I collected some of the miniatures when I was younger, the old lead ones, and off and on, but that was pretty expensive, especially for a kid, to get enough miniatures to play effectively, because the Ogre could be one side, so one side has one miniature, but typically, particularly in this first game, they're fighting a bunch of kind of conventional forces, tanks, infantry, and you can have a bunch of those on the other side. So really it's a David versus Goliath type thing with a whole bunch of Davids. So over the years I collected, I think I still have some. I found my old broken box of metal ogres from the Ralpartha. This thing's heavy. It's broken on the top. This is probably, I don't know how many decades old, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So then they decided to come out with plastics in just the last few years. So this is the plastic version of the same model. And you can see that they went to a lot of effort to get it exactly the same size, which is pretty cool. This is what we call an Ogre Mark V. Basically the little doodad on the top, I believe, is a sensor. It has 6 cannons, those are secondary batteries, 2 main guns on the front, the things that look like eyeballs, and then 6 Ogre missiles on the back that are extra long range. So he's packing a lot of weapons, and you take them apart piece by piece. You either aim at the weapons, you aim at the tracks until he's ground down to a halt or whatever. So normally in the initial scenario, this guy's trying to destroy a command post. I don't know if I have a command post model handy. Ah, there we go. Sorry, I have this giant box of plastic. So the basic scenario is this guy's trying to crush this thing, and then these guys have a bunch of conventional vehicles to do it. And I always liked the kind of combined arms feeling. Even when I was younger, that felt good. It felt smart. It felt like a fun way to play. In the initial game, you had heavy tanks. You had GEVs, ground effect vehicles, and all of these guys fire the fluff of the game, tactical nukes. You have lightly armored missile launchers, and you had infantry and power armor. Now I think in the original game those are the 4 units. Oh no, you have the howitzer. That's kind of a static gun. So I think these were the original ones that came in the original set, and then as expansions rolled out, you had more and more things added. They added things like super heavy tanks, mobile howitzers. Mobile howitzers might have been in the original game, actually, to think about it. Light GEVs, light tanks. So there's all these different kinds of units you can take. In addition to that, there's different kinds of ogres. This is an Ogre Mark V, and over the years they've come out with all the marks. Let's see if I've got them handy. If you forgive my horrible paint job, this is an Ogre Mark I. I forget who makes that. Let me see that there. That's Steve Jackson Games, 2002. That's a Mark I. I believe this guy is a Mark II. What I was going with that paint scheme, I'm not sure. Oh, maybe I was just highlighting up to white. The Ogre Mark III is this guy. I have him in plastic and some metal. He's just got 1 main gun, 4 secondary guns, and 2 Ogre missiles. If you don't have a lot of time, you could use him instead of the Mark V for a faster game. Then, after the Mark III, you've got the Mark IV. Now, this guy's kind of funny because Steve Jackson came out with glow-in-the-dark versions as well. So this Mark IV has missile launchers with kind of internal missiles, as well as secondary batteries and main batteries. He's kind of cool. He's kind of a fast cruiser compared to the other ogres. He's faster, but easier to take out. So that's Ogre Mark IV. Showed you guys the 5. And then one of my favorite models. Oh, this guy's just covered in dust. The Ogre Mark VI. And you can kind of see. Oops, well, he lost a secondary gun. We'll fix that, but you can kind of see he's got 3 main guns, those 6 secondary guns, missile launchers, external missile racks. He's just the biggest that they come with. So you have the 6, 5, the 4, the 3. Oh, there is a 3B, although I need to replace his tower. He's kind of a bigger version of the Ogre 3. Then you've got the 2. Then you've got the 1. Haha, there we go. Then as the game kind of evolved, they also added the other side. So these are Combine is the name of this faction. and these are kind of like the North American versions. And these are what they call the faction Pan-European. So you had the Combine versus the Pan-European. So Combine heavy tanks look different from Pan-Europeans. And then they came out with these guys, which are Pan-European Ogre equivalents. So I think he's equivalent to a Mark V, maybe Mark III, I forget. This is called a Fencer. And he doubles down on missiles, which is kind of cool. And then there's a whole second set or second version of the little guys for the Combine, which I like as well. And I have a boatload of those things. So there you go. The world of Ogre is quite rich as far as backgrounds and what's happening in it, from the initial wars to the ogres becoming self-aware and taking on humanity. There's a whole lot of fun stuff that goes on there. There's lots of crossovers too. I think the Ogre universe had a GURPS, the Steve Jackson generic role-playing game source book. There's Ogre Cthulhu. There's all kinds of things, because obviously this has been out for a very long time and it's still pretty popular. The nice thing is that the game is designed to be simple to play, and it's all about odds. I talk about this game with kids because it's a good way to teach odds. If he has a strength 4 gun shooting at a defense 2 target, the odds are 2 to 1, and you look up on the ancient CRT or combat result table 2 to 1 what that means, and roll your dice accordingly. So you figure out your odds, you look at your CRT, and it's very simple, particularly on a hex grid. But you can again play these on there is a miniatures version which converts hexes to inches, and you drive it around. The game is also kind of a macro scale. That these guys never really get that close to this because they're shooting tactical nuclear missiles at each other. So this might represent the GEV being, a mile or two away from the Ogre, which is, makes it feel a little bit more realistic. You don't typically stack units in one hex or close together because tactical nukes are a thing, and it's kind of cool. So I could probably go on for hours just playing with these toys now that I got them on the table, but I wanted to share that with you. That is the Ogre game from Steve Jackson, which I think is still in print. I forgot to show that. This is the Ogre Miniatures Lite that came in one of the boxes that has that. There's that combat result table. It's been around so long and it's so well balanced that when I play that first scenario where the Ogre is trying to crush the command post, it always comes down to the last few turns of an Ogre barely alive, just struggling to get to the command post and either squash it or get destroyed just short of it. It makes for a very exciting game. And eventually that gets kind of old, so there's other ways to play a game just using these, conventional vehicles against each other, no ogres, is a lot of fun too. It was the basis of an entire sequel called GEV. They also had a separate pocket game with the battle suits. It might have been called Battle Suit. That was just these battle suits. So it was like a smaller scale game where these guys were the only combatants in the game, which was kind of cool too. But I digress. So there you go, guys. That is a look at Ogre from Steve Jackson Games. I'll put a link down to their website below. I'm not affiliated with them. This isn't a paid video or anything. I just wanted to share some stuff that I like and makes me happy. So there you go, guys. That's Ogre from Steve Jackson. If you like this video or videos like it, please do like and subscribe. Do click that bell to receive notification when we release new content. As always, we appreciate you watching, and keep on wargaming.